What if one strike of a shovel could change everything? For Parker Schnabel, that moment may have just arrived. Deep beneath the Alaskan ground, hidden away for centuries, his crew stumbled onto a shaft unlike anything they had ever seen. At first, it looked like another routine excavation, but readings from the scanners didn't add up. Strange voids, odd resistance in the soil, and the faintest gleam of something metallic pushed Parker to dig deeper. What they uncovered wasn't just another gold vein. It was a vault holding an unimaginable fortune. When the dust cleared, the magnitude hit them. A staggering haul valued at over $115 million in pure gold. But this wasn't just about wealth. The shaft seemed alive with history, lined with carvings, timbers, and cryptic symbols pointing to something far greater than a pile of treasure. Every detail whispered that the chamber was deliberately hidden, guarded, and waiting for the right moment to be revealed. For Parker, this find could redefine his career, but also place him in the middle of a mystery that stretches far beyond gold mining. Because as incredible as the discovery was, the deeper they went, the stranger it became. And what the crew would soon uncover wasn't just shocking, it was dangerous. Long before the first nugget surfaced, Parker had a feeling this ground was hiding something extraordinary. The scanners were the first to confirm his instincts. Instead of the usual solid bedrock readings, the sonar lit up with strange irregularities, deep voids, pockets of air, and layered rock formations that didn't belong in this part of Alaska. At first, the crew thought it was a glitch, but the patterns were too precise, too deliberate to dismiss. As the machines clawed into the earth, resistance grew. Soil shifted in unnatural ways, and heavy equipment ground to a halt as if the ground itself was pushing back. The bucket teeth sparked against rock that seemed unnervingly out of place. Jagged slabs, aligned as though they had been cut and set by human hands centuries earlier. It was less like digging through untouched land, and more like forcing their way into something built with intention. Parker's focus sharpened. He knew gold could appear in strange places, but this wasn't the usual hunt for flakes and dust. The tension in the air was impossible to ignore. Crew members exchanged uneasy looks as each load of soil revealed textures and colors they couldn't explain. Dark clay layers pressed against pale sediment, seams of gravel crushed into odd patterns. Every shovelful seemed to unlock another piece of a puzzle no one yet understood. Then came the first true sign that this shaft was more than just geology. As headlights and flood lamps cut through the dust, faint shapes began to take form in the walls. Timbers, rotted, warped, but unmistakably human. Reinforced supports that hadn't seen the light of day for centuries. The ground they were tearing into wasn't untouched wilderness. It was a structure. Someone had been here before, and for reasons that were suddenly very important to uncover. The realization hit Parker hard. This wasn't just a mine. It was a secret buried deep, deliberately concealed and hidden from history. And if the timbers were the first clue, the markings carved into the rock would be the second. Symbols etched in stone that would raise far more questions than answers. The deeper Parker and his crew pushed, the stranger things became. Wedged between layers of compacted soil were fragments of reinforced wood, rusted metal plates, and stone walls that looked far too precise to be natural. But what truly froze the crew in their tracks were the carvings. Thin lines etched into rock, arranged in geometric patterns, spirals, and markings that no one could mistake for random scratches. Someone had left messages here, preserved beneath centuries of earth and silence. At first glance, the designs resembled crude maps. Arrows pointed into tight corridors, while intersecting circles hinted at hidden chambers. But the longer Parker stared, the more unsettling the details became. Some carvings mirrored European heraldic emblems, crosses, crowns, and insignias that had no business being buried in Alaskan ground. Others looked like coded instructions, sequences of symbols, repeating in patterns that suggested they were meant to be deciphered. Whispers spread quickly through the crew. Were they standing on top of a forgotten expedition? Had secret miners passed through these lands long before history books recorded their presence? Some muttered about pirates fleeing with stolen wealth, others about secret secret societies that had left their mark around the world. The air grew heavier with every theory, the chamber walls pressing in as curiosity turned into unease. Navigating the tunnels was no easier. Claustrophobic passages narrowed until men had to crouch and crawl, their headlamps bouncing shadows across damp stone. The rock itself seemed unnatural, chunks of granite and limestone shoved together in ways that didn't match the region's geology, as if deliberately transported to conceal whatever lay beyond. And through it all, those symbols reappeared, scratched into surfaces like a silent guide leading deeper underground. For Parker, this wasn't just exciting, it was terrifying. He had chased gold all his life, but this discovery hinted at something far greater than monetary value. These markings suggested intention, planning, and a purpose carefully hidden for centuries. Every symbol felt like a key, every corridor like a challenge, meant to test whoever dared enter. Then, just when the unease threatened to turn into fear, a flash of light caught the corner of a crewman's eye. A shimmer, faint but unmistakable, flickered in the beam of a headlamp. It wasn't another carving, it was something metallic, something that gleamed. For the first time, Parker realized the rumors of hidden treasure weren't just speculation. The gold itself was starting to show. The glimmer in the shadows was all it took to change the atmosphere. Every headlamp swung toward it, beams slicing through dust and darkness, until the faint sparkle came into full view. Wedged into the rock face, just barely peeking through layers of soil, was the unmistakable sheen of gold. At first, no one spoke. The silence was thick, charged with disbelief, as if the crew couldn't trust their own eyes. Then, the whispers started, half excited, half fearful, as Parker stepped forward, brushing away dirt with his gloved hand. The first pieces were small, flakes, nuggets, and the rounded edge of a coin that had been waiting for centuries to see daylight again. But even in their modest size, they carried a weight far beyond their physical form. These weren't random deposits left by chance. They were arranged, hidden deliberately, coins stacked in neat layers, nuggets placed in recesses as if someone wanted them to be found, but only by those who made it this far. As more earth was cleared, the scope of the discovery widened. Piles of artifacts began to emerge. Coins stamped with foreign emblems, crude tools forged by hands long gone, fragments of containers that once held wealth beyond imagination. Each object told a story, though none of them fit neatly into the history Parker thought he knew. Some coins bore markings no one could recognize, their symbols foreign to any culture tied to this land. Others looked European, but older than the earliest explorers recorded in the region. The crew's excitement grew, but so did their unease. Every find added to the mystery rather than solving it. Why would anyone bury such wealth in a shaft so remote, so dangerous to access? Why surround it with symbols, traps, and deliberate concealment? Parker could feel it in his gut. This wasn't just about fortune. This was about power, secrets, and knowledge deliberately hidden from the world. But the moment of awe didn't last. As they dug deeper, timbers gave way to stonework, and stonework gave way to something far more dangerous. The chamber wasn't just a vault, it was a trap. And the deeper they pushed, the more it became clear that this treasure was never meant to be taken easily. The deeper Parker's team went, the more dangerous the shaft became. At first, it was subtle, odd creaks in the stone, soil shifting in ways that felt unnatural. But soon, the threats revealed themselves in brutal detail. A misstep nearly plunged one crewman into a sand-filled pit that collapsed beneath his boot. Rusted levers protruded from the walls, their design primitive yet effective, ready to trigger cave-ins at the slightest touch. It was clear these weren't accidents of nature. The chamber had been engineered with a single purpose: to guard its secrets. Every step forward carried the risk of disaster, and Parker knew one wrong move could cost lives. The traps were clever, almost mocking in their precision, as if the builders expected intruders and wanted to test their resolve. Adrenaline ran high. Some men wanted to turn back, but Parker pushed on. He understood that if such precautions were in place, the treasure they were protecting had to be beyond imagination. Each obstacle cleared only confirmed that belief. As the crew worked carefully through the dangers, their lights caught more flashes of gold hidden deeper in the shaft. The promise of immense fortune pushed them forward, but the sense of being watched by history, by the builders, by fate itself never left. And just when they thought the worst was behind them, the chamber opened wider, revealing a sight that silenced the entire crew. They weren't just uncovering gold, they were standing inside a vault that looked deliberately designed to outlast time itself. When the chamber finally revealed its heart, the crew stood frozen. Floodlights bounced off walls stacked with wealth beyond belief. Gold bars gleamed in neat rows, coins spilled from ancient chests, and relics carved with symbols shimmered under layers of dust. It wasn't just a haul, it was a fortune designed to overwhelm anyone who found it. The numbers told one story, over $115 million in pure gold, but the artifacts told another, more unsettling tale. Ceremonial objects hinted at rituals long forgotten. Engraved plates bore scripts no one could recognize. Some pieces seemed European, others resembled Asian craftsmanship, and a few looked as though they belonged to no known culture at all. The crew felt torn between triumph and unease. Every discovery brought celebration, yet an undercurrent of dread lingered. A few muttered about the energy in the chamber, describing it as heavy, almost cursed. For Parker, it was more than superstition. He could sense there was intention behind every placement, every stack of coins, every hidden compartment. This was no random deposit, it was a design. The find was breathtaking, but Parker's instincts told him they were only scratching the surface. The symbols carved into the walls seemed to point deeper, hinting at passages still concealed in the shadows. And if what they had already unearthed was this staggering, what lay beyond those hidden doors could rewrite not just his career, but history itself. As Parker examined the chamber more closely, it became clear the treasure was only part of the story. Carvings stretched across the stone walls in patterns too deliberate to ignore. Arrows, coded symbols, and sequences that almost resembled coordinates. Some of the markings lined up perfectly with structural seams, as if pointing to hidden passages woven into the shaft itself. Ground-penetrating radar confirmed the suspicion. Scans lit up with faint outlines of narrow tunnels and hollow spaces branching away from the main chamber. These weren't natural fissures. They were man-made, carefully concealed, and likely just as dangerous as the traps they had already faced. Theories erupted immediately. Some crew members whispered about pirate stashes scattered across continents, each vault connected by secret codes. Others argued it was the work of ancient societies, intent on guarding wealth and knowledge from rulers or invaders. Whatever the truth, the chamber they stood in was only a fraction of something much larger. Outside the shaft, rumors spread quickly. Drones appeared on nearby ridges, likely from rival miners or treasure hunters eager for a glimpse. Parker tightened security, knowing that what lay underground was too valuable and too dangerous to let slip into the wrong hands. But beneath the tension, one fact was undeniable. The symbols weren't just decorations. They were a map, a message from the past pointing towards something even greater, hidden deeper underground. And the crew's next move would take them further into a mystery no gold rush had ever prepared them for. The moment news of Parker's discovery leaked, the world's attention shifted. Scholars, historians, and media outlets swarmed the story, each desperate to claim a piece of the narrative. What had started as a mining operation now carried the weight of rewriting history itself. Experts analyzing the artifacts quickly realized they didn't fit into a single culture or timeline. Coins bore the crests of European dynasties. Relics reflected techniques tied to Asia, and tools hinted at craftsmanship older than the earliest explorers recorded in Alaska. To many, this suggested a global network of secret exchanges, expeditions, and hidden societies working in shadows long before modern history acknowledged them. The implications were staggering. If the chamber was real and the evidence was undeniable, it meant historical timelines were incomplete, maybe even manipulated. Why had no records survived? Were these treasures concealed deliberately by powerful groups who didn't want their existence known. Meanwhile, speculation online spun out of control. Forums filled with theories about royal conspiracies, lost voyages, and underground networks stretching across continents. Some claimed Parker had uncovered proof of a secret order protecting hidden wealth through centuries. Others warned the treasure was cursed, meant to remain sealed forever. Through it all, Parker stayed focused. To him, the gold was incredible, but the story behind it was even more valuable. Every artifact pulled from the shaft was a clue to a bigger puzzle, a puzzle that could shake the foundation of what the world thought it knew about history. By the time the last crates were sealed and cataloged, Parker Schnabel knew he had achieved something few miners ever could. $115 million in gold was a staggering haul on its own. But it wasn't the coins or bars that defined the discovery. It was the story carved into every wall, every relic, every hidden compartment. This was more than fortune. It was a glimpse into a network of secrets deliberately buried and fiercely protected for centuries. For Parker, the find cemented his place in mining history. But it also left him with questions no amount of gold could answer. The carvings pointed to deeper tunnels still unexplored. The radar scans revealed chambers yet untouched, and the symbols hinted at connections to societies and dynasties erased from mainstream history. In many ways, the $115 million was just the surface prize. The real treasure was the knowledge still waiting in the shadows. Even now, scholars debate what the hoard means. Rival hunters circle in speculation, and whispers of further discoveries fuel endless theories online. But the shaft itself remains a silent guardian, its unbroken passages holding secrets no one has dared to fully uncover. And that's the haunting truth. This discovery may be remembered as the largest gold haul of Parker's career, but it feels less like an ending and more like the beginning of a story still unfolding. Because if this was only the first chamber, one has to wonder, what else lies buried beneath our feet, waiting for the right moment and the right person to bring it to light?